Today's episode of Running It Back is here, and it is special for the season. Brother Andrew joins me on the show, and we tackle true crime yet again, Halloween edition. You're about to find out why. Before we get to the episode, don't forget, if you want to see me doing live stand-up comedy this month, you can see me November 21st at the Hollywood Improv performing in the Lab on McDaniel Mondays, put on by Brian McDaniel, another comic who's been on this very show as well on Running It Back. So if you're interested, go back and hear his interview. So on to the show today. Like I said, Brother Andrew joins me. He is the curator of @MurderMecca on Instagram, tackling things true crime. We've done true crime episodes before, but not quite like this. You'll see what I mean by that. It is a very special Halloween edition, costumed edition as well. See what we chose. And what are we reviewing on the episode? We are reviewing the Netflix series Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. It's up there right now. We talk about it, our thoughts, our reactions, our critiques of the film as well. Not to mention the categories. Oh, the categories. All the hits, all the misses, all the quotes. We talk about it all. So, it's Halloween, it's fall, it's true crime. So join me and Andrew for our review of the Jeffrey Dahmer story on Netflix, starting now. All right, we are back, Running It Back, Halloween edition is here. Brother Andrew joins me. He is the curator of the @MurderMecca Instagram site, capturing things true crime and beyond. We have a special one for you lined up for you today. Andrew, thanks for joining me today.
The show, man. Yeah, true crime, Murder Mecca, dude. It's on the rocks right now, my guy.
What do you mean it's on the rocks?
It's all every fucking week, bro. They take down another one of my posts.
What are you posting?
No, nothing. The same shit. Like Dahmer shit, Gacy stuff, just like Ted Bundy. Like the genres never change, but I always post like a caption that says like, here, I wish I screen grabbed the notification today because it said that they took down it was funny because it was a Dahmer post that I posted like 2 years ago. And the post was about how Dahmer would drill a hole into the skulls of his victims, and he would use different bits depending on like how he wanted to pour acid into their heads or whatever. But I posted that like 2.5 years ago, and no one it has just lived on that page for that amount of time, and nobody's probably liked that picture in like a year and a half, you know? And then today I got a notification saying that post broke community rules and guidelines.
Oh, I see.
And was removed. So they send you a little like notification, and then you can see it for a second. And I should have screen grabbed it, dude. But instead I just hit okay, and then it just goes away, and you never get any more evidence of it other than that.
Yeah.
So now it's gone, dude.
Oh,
I lost another post. And that's happened
Jeez.
to me. That's already happened to me like 5 or 6 times, dude. Just because the language is like a little disturbing, you know? And I think Instagram has clamped down a lot. I think Instagram 3 years ago, you could get away with a lot more disturbing shit. And now they're very aware of like dangerous language and disturbing content, and they'll take your stuff down. They'll just remove it. So I'm pissed, dude, because that Dahmer picture had like 600 likes.
Yeah.
And now it's just out the window.
Maybe that should be your new post thread, is the screenshot of the notification saying we took this down because of community guidelines, and then you can make a post about that.
I've seen people do that all the time, like on their stories. Yeah. There's lots of other accounts that do basically the same thing. Like I'm just one of many true crime accounts out there, and anytime something gets taken down, they'll screen grab it and they'll put it on their story, and they'll put like super fucked up that like I'm being censored, like blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that.
But yeah. So I didn't think to do it at the time because it happened so quickly. But I think it's a normal thing, and like it's just sad. It's all changing, man. Like that. This
Hmm.
is like I feel like the account's gonna be picked apart by like the new rules and everything like that. And then I don't even post that much anymore, so like it's kind of like a dying handle. So
Oh
yeah,
no.
it's on its last legs. It feels like, but hey, who knows?
Well,
It
come
could
on,
become
people, get out there. Let's follow
it could
Murder
come back to
Mecca.
life at any moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, that
maybe.
literally happened this morning. And the more that I think about it, dude, like since Dahmer's like a big thing right now, like I bet they're noticing a lot of accounts that use that word Dahmer, and they're like
Yeah.
looking into it. So that's probably why they took it down today.
Well, maybe Elon needs to buy Instagram next.
Dude, if he could bring some justice to Murder Mecca, that would be sick. That would
Sweet
be so
justice.
sick. Yeah,
There's
I
got to
needed it,
be.
dude. They
There's got
took
to be
down
a
a Richard
thousand.
Ramirez post. They've taken down so many, man. It sucks.
Wow. There's got to
Yeah.
be so many Instagram true crime accounts that I can't imagine you're the only one experienced this. That's weird though, because
Yeah.
all the now your Instagram site is being censored
Right.
by the powers that be.
It's being picked apart, dude. It's totally being just hit by like different I don't know if people complain or not. Like every now and then I'll get pictures, like a notification that a picture that I posted like 2.5 years ago got a like yesterday, So people will still see that stuff. But if they complain, maybe someone read it and they were like, this is too fucked up, and they like complained, and then Instagram like put the flashlight on it and then deleted it. I don't know. I don't know
Wow.
why they deleted it, if I got told on or if the algorithm found me. But yeah, dude, it's the gig is up, bro.
You're like
the jig,
you're
I
like
guess, or whatever.
you're like the Edward Snowden of Instagram Murder
Oh
Mecca
yeah,
sites.
I'm gonna have to.
Man,
yeah, that'd be sick.
Are you in
That'd
a
be
bunker
sick.
right now? Are you on the run from Instagram police?
Hell, fucking yeah. Hell yeah.
That's right.
Hell yeah, I got a post, dude. You're right. If I could have saved it, I could have put a good story post. Whatever.
Yeah. Save it for the future. Well,
It's honestly
this
a good thing. It means I'm edgy. It means I'm a little edgy.
maybe
So
this
we can ride it.
show, maybe this YouTube show will get the site back on track. So come on,
Oh, yeah.
people, go follow Murder Mecca and the true crime posts. Well, we have a good one lined up today. Andrew joins me. Everyone always enjoys the Brother Andrew episodes on the show. The whole family in general. Like we got cousin Adrian. When he joins, it gets a little boost in views too. So shout out to the extended family episodes now. But we're going to be covering, as we do from time to time, true crime. We did a review previously. We did John Wayne Gacy before. I don't know if you remember last Halloween, we did the movie Candyman. And this year we are doing Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which is currently running on Netflix. We have categories, we have overall thoughts as well. However, since this is the Halloween edition, we're taking it up a notch and we are going full Halloween costume. So here we go. All right, we are fully
Wow.
costumed edition of Running Back,
Right.
True Crime Edition, Halloween. I went with the King Tut. Or you could say like Pharaoh or something, it's just basically Egyptian-like.
Got kind of, yeah, you definitely got the Egyptian, like, from another time look going on right now.
Right.
Yeah,
I got
for
a
sure.
cape. I got these.
Is that tied to the fact that you believe that ancient aliens brought us the Egyptian pyramids?
Oh, yeah, I've never really thought about that. You know what I did see recently when it comes to like Egyptian stuff, like the hieroglyphics in the pyramids, like they say like, oh, look at the Egyptians. Like this shows that they had electricity. How would they have had electricity? But then I would always think like, but what if those artists were just fucking around? What if they were just drawing shit? Like we do crazy stuff now. Like are people in a million years from now going to watch our movies and say like, oh, Brad Pitt was in the time of World War II. It was in a movie. Are we going to do that? So what if artists were just messing around with those hieroglyphics just for fun?
It's always possible that they drew just trippy shit back then.
Right.
So it's
Right.
not out of the realm of possibility that some of that's just total out of their imagination
Right.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And
Is everything
today we can tie it to a modern helicopter. But back then it was just like, that's a crazy fucking thing I drew, you know?
right? Is there no such thing as nonfiction in Egyptian time?
Right,
Come on.
right. Yeah, they told stories. Yeah, they made shit up all the time. They lied. So
Yes.
yeah, it's a funny little argument to make. Like everything they drew has to mean it's the exact truth, you
I
know?
always I always like the argument when like I think it's Galileo or some like kind of old timey philosopher inventor, and they say like, well, you know, in 1600 or whatever, he was drawing pictures of helicopters. That was still hundreds of years away. We're like, well, yeah, anyone could draw a picture of it. He didn't
Right. Yeah.
invent it. He's drawing pictures.
Such a
So
simple, like, yeah, it's like it doesn't even look exactly like the helicopter either. It's like just kind
no,
of
it
like it
doesn't.
like kind of sort of resembles it.
It
Um,
doesn't.
yeah, that shit's stupid as hell, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of like, so my costume is supposed to represent like the fact that I'm a big true crime like is my one love, and then my second love is like conspiracy theories and stuff. And I'm a big UFO like alien guy, and I'm a big believer in like UFO like sightings and like all that shit. And I even think like this costume's supposed to represent like an alien walking among us, you know?
Oh,
Like,
neat.
yeah, like I feel like if the aliens are seriously trying to observe us, like they've had to have implanted a couple of like aliens within our society that just like kind of mimic human beings, you know? So you get into like some crazy like stuff like the whole reptilian argument, you
Mm.
know, and stuff like that. But my costume is supposed to just be like an alien like chilling with some sunglasses on, you know, just trying to act normal, you know?
Where do you stand on if aliens are visiting us? Are they A, studying us, or B, the argument that they're so advanced, why would they ever want to study us? I'm a
Right.
little bit of the first category because like us humans, we study ants. You know,
Right.
we study
Right.
insects and single cell things all the time. So I'm more of the belief that they would be interested in what we're doing.
Right.
What do you
Oh
think they're
no.
doing if they're visiting?
No, they're definitely one. Like, I don't even think we have to worry for a second about fighting them, because if it was a battle, they would take us out hands down. You know, the fact that they can come to where we live and our best telescope can identify anywhere where they might come from, you know, that means they've got some hardcore technology, you know? So, right out the gate, they're big brothering us. They are totally in control and they can have their way with us. We're the lab mice, like you said. So, I think where they find a little bit of enjoyment with us is when some type of social anxiety builds up in us and we all act a certain way. I think they like to see how we react. Maybe if we're going to dive into it, maybe COVID was something that they threw in there, you know, maybe hurricanes, you know, maybe any type of natural disaster or unforeseeable event that's beyond our control. Maybe they do it to kind of test us and see how we react and stuff, and then they take note of it. Who
Mm,
knows? That's kind
you're
of where I would put them at. Is they observe us in the way that, like you said, we look at ants or mice.
Yeah, maybe we're like their lab rats.
100%. They're not here.
Hmm.
I don't think they would want to invade us necessarily, because they probably would have done it already. They probably would easily be able to do it. So it seems like they're more just down to kind of use us as like a little curiosity experiment.
Hmm.
And then maybe they communicate with us. That's where the whole pyramid thing comes in,
Oh
is the
yeah.
fact that they gave us the technology to make the pyramids, and that's why they're so precise. And even technology today can't really explain how they got some of those perfect lines, you know? Maybe they communicate with us every now and then to kind of put us on a new path.
Yeah, the same way like we can't really communicate with dogs, like we can't speak with dogs, maybe they can't really speak with us. You know, like
True.
there's this language brain barrier that just even though if we try, you can't really do it. You know,
True.
you can't talk to a dog, can't talk to a dolphin, but maybe they're still intelligent, but we just can't communicate with them. Maybe they're, are you, Do you think aliens are from another universe, galaxy, or do you think they are advanced humans?
Oh, dude. Okay. Are they like maybe us on a future timeline?
Yes,
just
right.
just just maybe 4 million years down the line, they've discovered the ability to control time, and now they can come back to us in these ancient days as they see it maybe, and study us and visit us and almost treat us like a history book or like a textbook that they can study and look at us almost in the way that we'll look at a dinosaur in a textbook. They can look at us in real time in 2022 and be like, look at how they acted in this time. You know, they have an iPhone. There's still a lot of racial tension. They're just starting to use Twitter in this weird way. We could be total. It could not even be what we think. Our entire existence could be educational for them, and we could all just be in a living textbook for them.
Hmm.
I think it could be as bizarre as that, or it could be something totally different. But there's no telling. There's really no telling.
Yeah, whatever our best guess is, is going to be wrong. There's no
Yeah,
way we
yeah,
can guess correctly what this is.
right. So I think to answer your question, I think they're us. I think that's
Yeah.
the best way to look at it, because I'm also a big believer in everything being like singular and like ultimately connected. So we have to be in some way tied to them, in maybe an AI form or cyborg way or something. But I believe they're us.
You know
What
why?
about you?
Well, you know why I think they're us as well is because like we see little micro examples of this on Earth. Like when scientists every once in a while discover an ancient, not an ancient, but a tribe that is existing nowadays, but they're totally not connected to the modern world. Like they're in the jungle
Right,
and they have
right,
their own language. Like when we go see them, when the scientist goes and sees them, we are their aliens. They're like, what is a camera? What is this recording equipment? What are these clothes? That would be alien to them. So
right,
I think that's a little mini example of why that theory is correct. Like that's such an advanced us that we see a spaceship or some sort of communication that we don't understand, but to them that is the norm. That's how they do it because they're so far advanced. And if we find an ancient tribe in the Amazon, we can't communicate with them. There's no language. We can make
right,
hand signals. We look like each other, but like a little different. They are going to be dressed different. Their hair is going to be different. Skin tone's going to be different. Sometimes they have like paint on the faces, or they look at the modern human. They're like, what's with that watch? What's that
right,
metal thing you're wearing on
right.
your wrist? So that's why I think that they are super duper advanced humans, like us, two evolutionary cycles in the future, perhaps.
Right. Oh, 100%. I think it's a good comparison. Just imagine talking to a tribe that hadn't, even gotten around to the concept of certain types of sales, and we roll in there with an iPhone. And
Yeah.
to them that technological leap might as well be an alien coming down in a spaceship. The
Hmm.
only difference is that they can at least see us, or they can see a common body. So that they would say that looks like us. That's a person that looks like me. They're just wearing weird clothes and they're interacting with weird technology, but at least it looks like me. As opposed to seeing like a fucking octopus roll in,
Right.
then it would be like, holy fuck, that's like an entirely different life form that I cannot relate to. But um I think that aliens also, there's a theory that aliens don't look like anything. At this point, they're just mist. They're just like almost like a cloud that lives in space, and they're all emotion and feeling, But for our sake, they turn themselves into a physical form that somewhat represents us to make us like feel a little more comfortable when we interact with them.
Yeah.
That's like another thing that I've heard thrown out there, is that they kind of just do it for us. But
Yeah.
but who knows? Who fucking knows, man?
Who knows?
Yeah,
Who
it's
knows?
wild.
When will we know? Who knows? What will we know? Who knows?
Yeah. I've never seen a UFO. I've never had an alien experience, so I can't even speak to that shit. But I've read a lot of accounts of people who have had that stuff, and like it's all over the map, I would say. But there's a bunch of commonalities too, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we've had a good alien story sighting in a long time, other than that government video that, was
Holy
released in the
shit.
last handful of years that is just wild and hard to identify and just vague enough to know something is there. But
Yeah.
like, no way can we determine what exactly we're looking at. And we're like, that's moving way too fast. That's nothing that is on
Yeah.
Earth, although it could be some sort of secret government drone project. It could be that. We don't know.
Dude, that's exactly what I was about to say is like it's almost stupid of us to think that we would know what the latest government technology is.
Yeah.
So when we see a plane do something, or we see an unidentified aerial vehicle, as they call them, doing something crazy, that's because it's crazy to us. But they're in competition with the whole world, so they have to have like the craziest technology that no one else can know about. That way, they can stay ahead of other militaries. So it's fully, and there's a real famous story out there. I don't know any of the details, but the basic gist of it is that like 50 years ago, a pilot saw something happen in the sky that didn't make any sense to them. And then today, that's a very common thing in aviation.
Yeah.
So all that he didn't have was technology that was about 50 years more advanced than the common public's knowledge of the technology yet. But
Hmm.
it's very possible that that's a government test that they're running, and they're just going to pawn it off to, yeah, maybe it's aliens, like
Yeah. They don't want to
they,
say, no, that was us.
if the government's ever telling you something's true, then you should be worried, I feel like, because it's like they're
Never trust a
admitting
government.
they're admitting to aliens being real. So it's like, why would they do that? Why would they come out with it now? There has to be some reason for it.
The
So,
government is never going to tell you the correct information also. They're never going to be
it's
like, it's
it's
time to
it's
come clean.
I don't even blame them, dude. Like, you're supposed to be smart enough to know that they're full of shit at a certain point. I feel like it's a little bit of a testy relationship the public should always have with them, where it's like, we know you're lying to us, and we're aware of it, so just kind of keep your distance, because
Hmm.
it's a lot of people just look into it as like a cool, like, interest curiosity thing, which is fine, and then other people take it in the really wrong direction and like hate everything they say. But for me, it's more just like the fact that they're saying it means that there's something else going on, and that leads me to believe that their technology is like that kick ass right now.
Yeah. There's
I think
stuff
it's
out there
them.
we don't
I
know
think it's
about.
them. I think it's human technology that we just don't really know about.
You
Yeah,
think that crazy Tic Tac video of the object moving around on the radar, you think that's government?
dude, the Tic Tac video could almost. I kind of, in that instance, this is gonna sound like a cop out, but I kind of think that might be like instrument malfunction or something, because it's
Really?
it's because
It's too many
I don't
independent witnesses have.
no, it's a lot of people saw it and stuff, but like, wasn't it all entirely based off of like an instrument reading of something? Because they
I
because they
Well,
because they
there is video, but yeah, you're right. There is an instrument reading that, like, once the instrument became, to my recollection, the instrument was invented or improved over the last few years, and then they could pick this up with the improvement to the instrument. So it could be, you're right.
okay,
I guess it could be instrument reading something unusual or malfunction or something like that. But I thought it was
yeah.
independently verified by enough people to say that, like, that thing is out there, I think.
Well, yeah, okay, maybe the video I'm thinking of is the one where like it's kind of, it almost looks like black and white, like infrared style,
Yeah.
and the guy's looking at the ocean or whatever, and then
Oh,
he
yeah.
needs to lock onto it, and then do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I
The
know
one
what
where
you're
he
talking about.
locks onto it and then it starts to follow it, and then he's like stoked that he locked onto it. I feel like it's very possible that he just locked on. It could be like a glitch, like he locked onto nothing, and like the camera is just rotating at that speed. I just don't. It seemed a little bizarre to me, um, but I also know nothing about that radar, and I just feel like, I don't know. Okay, if you really want to go deep on it, maybe it turns into a tic tac as like a cloaking mechanism, because it 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 moves quickly and it's impressive and everything, but because it's a little dot on the screen and there's no dimension or form to it, it makes me almost wonder if it's just a glitch. I don't know. Who knows?
Sounds like
What's your call? You think it's pretty
sounds
legit?
like the perfect response a government agent would have to
No,
this.
you're right. That sounded as I was talking, I was like, you sound like such a micro cock fuck, like just saying like, oh yeah, no, it couldn't be
It's a weather balloon.
It could totally be that. Because I don't know anything about it, but it just wasn't okay. The truth is I wanted it to be like an actual ship or something. And instead it was a little tic tac, so it wasn't that impressive to me. That's why.
Yeah. Well, like we're saying, whatever our best guess is going to be wrong. Like we're thinking it's going to have wings or it's going to be a saucer. When we finally see something, it's like it's not going to be anything we imagine. It's not going to be the Egyptians have electricity. It's going to be they were fucking around.
Right.
I don't know, man. Government.
These are big questions we're asking right now.
We started way big. Well, we're talking Dahmer, the series that is on Netflix right now. We always do true crime, but it's Halloween edition. We got our costumes. I'm going to throw one extra detail at you. I was thinking about having a spooky background. Last year we did like haunted houses and graveyards, but for a spooky background this year, what do you think about this? Here's a very scary setting. My scary setting is a very busy Trader Joe's. Look at this. It's too crazy in here.
Wow, you're such a goofball. Yeah, that's a scary concept. That's a scary concept.
Look at people.
Yeah, you're in there. Look at all those people just crowding each other.
How scary is this? You go to Trader Joe's like on a Sunday at noon, forget it. You're not getting out of there. Or a Saturday. Their warehouses are small as it is, so you're banging into each other with the carts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the carts are all of it's terrible. The carts are extra small, but it doesn't help you at all because you're just as compacted. Yeah, that sucks, dude. That reminds me too of like that, like as crowded as Trader Joe's ever is, like on a Sunday, like at prime time. Just think of how much more crowded it would be if like there was any type of natural disaster that like hit the city, man.
Oh, forget
that would be pure chaos, So your background's scary as fuck. Like I get stressed about that a lot of time, thinking about how ransacked the Target by my apartment would get if anything actually happened.
Yeah. Scared like if the aliens came.
Oof. Spooky.
Forget it. Or it also is a scary one is a crowded Costco too. That could be in there as well. Trader Joe's, I think there's a little bit more of a feeling of tension for some reason.
Oh, you think Costco. So?
I don't know. I think so a little bit with Trader Joe's. People go thinking that they're going to be in and out. I think people with Costco know that they're going to be in there a bit. I think they know what's coming. Trader Joe's, I feel like everybody's upset when it's busy, and yet it's busy all the time. That's my scary background. I'm going back to normal, though.
That's a good background. I'm with you. I agree. People are more chill at Costco. There's more space. It's natural human psychology. If there's more space, people are going to be a little more chill. In Trader Joe's, everyone's compacted, so anxiety is a little higher.
Yes. That was my scary background. Those are our costumes. Well, let's get to the series now. We decided to tackle Dahmer, which is on Netflix right now. We picked this one because it's popular. It's on right now. It's a crime that happened he was arrested in the early 90s. So it is a bit of our era. And then we come to the age-old question with a lot of these true crime with the serial killers is the nature versus nurture question, I think is huge in this one. And then I had this thought when watching it because it is a 10-episode series. It is so long. This is so detailed. I don't know if you're old enough to remember made-for-TV movies. Do you know what that is?
I definitely know the concept of it, but I can't really think of one like during that time. But I know what you're talking about.
Right. Well, to your point, they were less popular than that of a movie, but they were a little bit more than a TV show. But it would get like B-list actors, maybe someone you heard of, like a Margot Hemingway or something. And then they would be in this made-for-TV movie that would come out Sunday night, Saturday night. And there would be maybe a few episodes, or maybe it would be one episode. And it was essentially a B movie, but it would be of a subject that would not be movie worthy. So it'd be like a crime, or there'd be like, there was like, before there was Lifetime channel, all of them were like a woman scorned, and or it'd be
Yeah.
like a mom addicted to pills or something like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It would be a little bit in between TV show, too dramatic for TV, not good enough for a movie.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling I got with this Dahmer series, is that this is our modern day TV, made for TV movies, where we just have a series streaming on Netflix or Hulu, and then we watch it. There's actors that we kind of know, actors that we don't know. It comes on a late on a weekend. That's the
Yeah.
feeling I got overall watching this. It's highly detailed, it's long, it's interesting in a way, but not movie worthy. So I thought this was our modern day made for TV movie as well. And then, I mean, you suggested this topic, and then when I got into it, then I had some thoughts of why this is actually interesting. But what were your initial thoughts of the Dahmer series going into it?
Like going into this series, I kind of knew the story already. So I was more interested in how they were going to tell it. As always, this is not the first time they've done this. Have you seen the Bundy one that they made with Zac Efron?
No, I didn't see that one.
It's the difference is that the Zac Efron one is a movie, so it's like a 2.5 hour experience, and then
I
this
see.
one, like you said, is long as hell. So that's a big difference. But I thought the Bundy one was okay. It was kind of cheesy, I thought, because I just can't get over the fact that it's Zac Efron. So the thing that I liked about this one was that Dahmer was kind of an unknown to me. I don't know who Evan Peters is really as
Oh,
an
the
actor.
actor. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could easily get into him as a believable Dahmer if he nailed it. So going into it, I was happy about that I didn't know the actor from something already. So when I saw
Hmm.
him acting his ass off, I was like, damn, that's Dahmer. That's a good take on him. So I was into this from the moment I started watching it because the timeline was interesting, the acting was good, and I thought it had like a little bit of a feel of like Seven, that the Morgan Freeman Brad Pitt
Hmm.
movie. It had that feel
What's
of
in the
gritty,
box?
dark, gritty, like lighting and shit. So I thought it was really good. I loved it. But I we'll probably get into it later, but I thought it was like a little uneven at times and probably
Yeah.
could have been shortened a little bit. It was long as hell. But overall, I thought it was good, and I thought it was way better than a lot of other true crime stuff that comes out in the natural flow of Netflix, assembly line shit.
Yeah. This one is interesting because it's not a documentary. It's not a true crime mystery. It's a series. It's got actors and it's following this timeline. And then I kind of got to thinking the types of true crime, because this one doesn't fit any category. Types of true crime that I can think of that interest us are, number one, ones that usually involve a heist, like a money heist or a bank robbery or something like that. Then there's sort of sex scandals. We get interested in that. Then there's the mystery killer, where the authorities are trying to find the killer. This one doesn't have any of that. He's not a criminal mastermind. He's not stealing money. Like Gacy was some sort of like crazy personality, where he was abducting people. This one is not any of that. He's just demented. And I think the final straw on it that really like makes us creeped out is the cannibalism. So that was my final category: is heist, sex, mystery killer, cannibalism. This is so warped and demented that this is what captured our interest, that this person is so detached from humanity that this is the interesting part. And as we get into it, like when he's caught, that's it. He's caught. Like there's no evading authorities. There's no nothing. He was out on the lam just by circumstance. Like he just hadn't got caught yet. So this was kind of weird like that, in the sense that I didn't know what category it went into. When you think of types of true crime, what do you think this one falls
I
into?
I think there's lots of different types of true crime, and some of the examples of that are like there's that type of true crime that's so bad it's good. So an example of that might be the Chris Watt story. That's the one
Mm,
where the guy killed his wife and his two little girls, and then threw him in the back of his truck and took him out to like a work site that he had access to, and then put him in a tank.
Mm-hmm.
And then the police came to investigate, and he lied, and it's so cringy. And then there's a very obvious surveillance cam of him like pulling out at like 3 a.m. and the police catch
Right.
him, and it's all on camera, and it just makes you cringe, but people watch it because it's satisfying. So that's one type of true crime. The other kind is the unsolved kind, that interests you. And then there's a million other kinds. So you don't know what you're going to get really, because if you're coming into it new, everything's a new experience. But with this one, I feel like the big draw for me was, is this guy evil or not?
Mm-hmm.
I like, that was the big question, and I thought that the actor did such a good job that it's such an even better question. Do you ask yourself, like, is he at fault for the way he's acting right now, or should we, is it the opposite of that? Does he have no control, and is this just the way this person was going to be regardless of what happened to him? Loving father or no loving father. I thought that was really interesting because the movie did a good job of letting him be super monstrous, but also very likable and almost sympathetic.
Yeah,
That was
it
the big
borderline
question
on
for
that
me.
sympathetic a couple times.
Yeah,
I didn't like feeling that way towards the character. I was like, there's no way, there's nothing sympathetic about this guy. So, but it really did border that of like, this was the path of how he got on this road. This was a why. And I think that's what we want to answer with all these true crimes with the psychopaths is like, why? Why did they like,
why?
we want to figure it out. We're like, there's got to be a reason because this can't just exist in nature. Can it? You know?
Right.
So they
Think
try
of
and
the
tell that story, and we
right.
never really will answer this, but I think that's what it attempted to ask or attempted to portray is the why. These are the steps. And we asked this question with the Gacy one was he evil or not? And then with this one, I think the question becomes more nature versus nurture, which I think is a term that we invented, and then we started thinking about it secondly. Like we had to think that you have to choose one, when really the honest answer is like it's both. Of course, you're affected by both.
Sure.
So, but this one, I think you can ask that question: was one or the other more of an effect? And then we'll talk about the length. I think is the biggest detail of this series is the length. It's 10 episodes long, 5 different directors, created by Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan. They have worked on in the past, I thought this was interesting, Nip Tuck, American Horror Story, Scream Queens, and episodes of Glee. So quite the range from these two creators. So let's start with the nature versus nurture. Having watched this, are you more on one side than the other, or do all ingredients have an equal footing in creating this person?
Dude, I think this is the definition of nature wins, man, because this guy was nurtured. This guy got love. I'll admit that his family life was fucked up, but his dad cared about him. His dad wanted him to do well. He checked in on him. He gave him chance after chance. I think this is a big example of nature just having control of what you're going to be. And then, I mean, no spoilers because we're talking about the whole series. The dad even admits to being like, I used to have those thoughts too. Like I wanted to kill, I imagined what it would be like to do that. So it doesn't directly say it, but the argument could be made that it's like the bloodline, it's a natural thing that just lives in some bloodlines that will rear its head regardless of if you're born in a wealthy family or a broke system where you have no chances at all. So I think it's nature. In the argument, I think the answer that Dahmer gives you is a nature answer.
I'm going to take the other side of it. If we're going by the movie, of course, as historically accurate, I don't think the dad was there. I think the dad checked in on him, but those years where Dahmer is living at his own house alone in his high school years because his mom left, where was the dad? Who's paying the mortgage? Where was all this stuff? Because the scene where he comes back and he's like, where's your mother? She left, I guess. For how long? Couple months. He's just working out in the living room, crushing Budweisers. Like, where you been, Dad? And when Dahmer gets kicked out of the military and the dad is so upset, he dumps him at his grandma's house. He's like, you go live with grandma now. And, that's it. Let me just wipe my hands of this. I think the dad could have been there more, while at the same time, the dad tried the most. Now, Dahmer had no mother. There was no mother around. The mother had mental issues, had failed suicide attempts, left the family. So no mother as well. And then a couple of childhood traumas put this guy on the path. So I'm going to go a little bit on the opposite and go 60-40 nature, 60%, nurture 60%, nature 40%. Like, what's the nature of it is he was interested in dead things, or he was extremely isolated. I think that has a negative effect on young Jeffrey Dahmer becoming what he is. Of course, it's both. Like, I always like that college class where you do nature versus nurture, and then you debate for 6 weeks, and at the end, it always becomes, that's both. That's it. I think it's both.
Right. The truth is, it's a false binary. It's got to be both.
It's both.
There's no possible way it's one
right.
or the other, and why would it be? But I think with Dahmer, it's just, some of the scariest parts for me were the parts where he's in high school and he's just doing pranks, because that's relatable. When he's just goofing off and doing jokes and making people laugh, I thought, like, that's such a normal thing. And it's scary to see him doing something that I've watched so many people do in high school, and that could be a serial killer. That's like, serial killers aren't these people that walk around. Obviously, serial killers, some of them are, but others are able to infiltrate society and kind of be goofballs too. So when Dahmer's like working out in the living room, crushing buds, and then his dad rolls in, dude, do you remember the first thing he tells his dad? He's like, Jeff, what's going on in here, man? And he's like, oh, I had a party, Dad. And it's like in that moment, it's like, that's the genius thing to say, instead of admitting that I've just been an alcoholic the past 3 months and I killed somebody in this living room. He says, I had a party, which kind of would explain why it's trashed. And the dad would kind of be like, well, at least my son's kind of normal, Yeah. So he says things that are so on target for manipulation that I don't know if it's accidental or on purpose. But it was moments like that I found really interesting. And I was like, he's just a natural. He's a natural at this. He knows how to get away from the spotlight just enough that you can't teach it. You can't teach that. So that's why I was like full nature on him. But I get what you're saying. There's definitely weird shit. His dad showing him how to carve up a squirrel in the tool shed, that's weird shit. A lot of dads would not do that, and that's a nurture thing that you're literally luring the serial killer out of Dahmer when you show him how to cut the spine on a squirrel. He's going to want to do that with a person. So the dad definitely turned him on to some of that too, which is big time nurture.
It was nurture in the wrong direction. Sort of like if your dad was into racing cars and a little kid was it was like, hey, I like racing cars too. You don't put an 8-year-old behind the wheel. It's too, you got to have some tact to it as well. And also, like, getting back to the nature versus nurture, like, you have to factor in this alcoholism. So it's almost like you got nature versus nurture versus addiction or chemical dependency, because that was huge. He's drinking from an early age. And when we get into unintended comedy section of it, when he's drinking a beer in class or something, or he's drinking in class, they're like, and the teacher's like, Jeff, are you drinking? He's like, yeah. He's drinking a beer. Just having a drink in class. You know what else is, I would say, the scariest thing about this? Like, we talk about it with movies, like when they show the monster or they don't show the monster. With the true crime stuff is, with the early days when they cover that, is like, you watch it and like, we all know people we went to school with who acted like this.
for
Like we're
sure.
like, I know that one guy who was kind of withdrawn, or we'd always be like, hey, where's your parents? They're like, oh, I got the house. They're like, we all knew that kid, and we like, you watch this, and you're like, dude, I think I went to school with someone like this. I think I had a roommate who was like this. It really relates in a weird way like that when you see the isolated solo loner guy, and you're like, I knew 8 to 10 people like that.
Right, right. It's statistically, I always ask myself, how many serial killers just go uncaught in the world? Maybe it's a compulsion where they do it one time and they're like, whoa, 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 I can never do that again. And then it could be on a gradient where then you've got the Dahmers who can not stop themselves and
Mm-hmm.
are just have to do it until they get caught. And those are the ones you hear about. But I wonder if there is just a type of person who's also a serial killer who just does it twice and can actually wean themselves off of it and never do it again.
Right, because he
Those
stopped
are
for
the
9 years.
yeah, yeah. So I just feel like there's so many fucking people out there who have killed people who never get caught, and we only get to see the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So I tend to really trip out like when I think about guys in high school who acted like that and
Mm-hmm.
were weird, and everybody acknowledged said weird shit. I'll never forget, dude. This is something that happened on the bus when we were on the way to a football game. It was like a 2-hour bus ride, and this dude who was a weird guy, his name was Will Taylor. He was like a linebacker who would pay off the stat guy to inflate his stats. So every time every time the game ended, it would say Will Taylor had like 13 tackles, and you would watch the film and he had like 7. And there was like a deal he made with the stat guy to just give him tackles and give him assists all the time. And I think back then they had a weird little thing where they would count assists as half tackles. So
Right.
if you got 8 assists, you would get 4 real tackles. So stat guy would just put him in on all these assists, and
Mm-hmm.
he would get all these fake tackles. So anyway, long story
Wow.
short, he's a weird guy, and he's like a narcissist. And he was talking to his girlfriend on the phone one time, and this was while we were heading like 2 hours out of town for a game, and he was about to hang up with her, and he said like, all right, I'll talk to you later, baby. And then he said, and don't forget, remember, if I ever find out that you're cheating, what'll I do to you? And then they both said at the same time, I'll fucking kill you. He said it, and then I heard her say it like into the phone
What?
too. Yeah. And he like laughed, like he like tilted his head back and started laughing and then hung up his phone. And I remember being like, that was weird as hell.
Yeah.
Because like he was just like laughing about it. And then he proceeded to talk for the rest of the bus ride about how he could cheat on his girlfriend anytime he wanted.
Yeah.
So he's holding her
Weird.
to a standard of like, you can't cheat on me because I'll fucking kill you, but I can cheat on you, no problem, and I'm gonna, and if I had the chance, I would. And then of course he would post pictures on MySpace of him flexing in front of the camera, and the caption would always say like, damn, I'm big, or something like that. So he was narcissistic, he was manipulative, and now that we're talking about it, he could be a serial killer. That guy had the attitude.
That wouldn't surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not surprising. He treated people like they're little bugs that didn't matter. So that's the type of guy that Dahmer is in high school, and Will Taylor kind of was like that too,
Like
should look him up.
With like, yeah, really.
Should look him up. Yeah.
Maybe Murder Mecca has a new post on their hands.
Dude, I'm gonna feel so bad if he's like just a nice guy.
Jeez. Well, like talking about like we're trying to categorize true crime documentaries and stuff. Like usually the psycho, the loner has some sort of narcissistic personality. Like with Gacy, he had this. Dahmer doesn't have this at all. He's just warped. It just has no connection to anything humanity. He doesn't like overinflate. He doesn't have an overinflated ego. He's not talking. He's not lying about like his achievements. He is just the ultimate loner, and he's just going job to job, apartment to apartment, grandma's house, gay bars. He is just devoid of any human. What would you call it? Characteristics of someone who's detached from society. So I think the loner is the only way to describe this guy. as compared to the narcissistic, overinflated, I'm smarter than everybody else serial killer, which we see a lot of times as well. So
100%.
weird. So keeping on with the documentary, one of the best things about this documentary, I thought, was casting. Like we talked about the guy who played Dahmer, who I think has to go directly into therapy after playing Dahmer as well as he did. Cause this is just so intricate into his life and all the bad things that happened to him and all the bad things he did as well. But couple surprises with the casting as well. The guy who played his dad, Richard Jenkins. First of all, it took me 4 episodes to not picture him as the dad in Step Brothers as well, because he essentially was the dad in Step Brothers. Well, he's like, Jeff, how's the army? That's great, Jeff. You're doing good. All right. He was excellent. I almost think he played the dad better than the dad actually was in real life, is why we sort of think he cared about him. And then these were a couple surprises. Do you know who played the dad's new wife, Jeffrey Dahmer's stepmother?
Dude, Molly Ringwald, man.
I didn't know that till I looked it up. I was like, where the hell's Molly Ringwald been all these years?
That's shocking, dude, because I watched it a couple of times, and the second time I watched it, I was like, she's pretty good. She's got like a significant role in this show. And I just looked it up right now who the cast was, and I was like, that was Molly Ringwald. Like, no wonder.
Yeah. So you didn't know at the time?
No, I did not.
I didn't either.
I
did not
she was
either.
A throwaway character on my first watch, and then on my second watch, I noticed she says some things that kind of move the story forward and stuff. And I was like, damn, she's kind of an interesting character. And then I found out it was Molly Ringwald, and I was like, oh, damn, for sure.
It almost makes me think, like, are we ready for a Molly Ringwald Renaissance reboot? Does she want to be in something? Because I could see it.
Doing it.
She was excellent. And like, you're right, in essentially a nothing role. There's not a lot for that character to do, but a couple of scenes, like, she really adds to it when they have dinner with Jeff at the diner, and they're like, this is like the last chance for him to be any sort of form of normalcy. And it doesn't work. It doesn't go anywhere, but she's good in it. And then the other surprise is the mom, Jeffrey Dahmer's actual biological mom, is Penelope Ann Miller from 90s lore, from Kindergarten Cop, from The Shadow. And she's in a couple other movies, but she was going somewhere in the 90s. She was like hot, wholesome Sharon Stone,
I got you.
Yeah. And I just feel like when Gwyneth Paltrow came around, just corrected every skinny blonde actress of the era. We never saw her again. She was good in it as well. And then all the victims I thought were all casted well. Everyone was good. Oh, and then Glenda, the neighbor, was excellent as well. I think the casting helped this so much because this series is too long. This series is too damn long. And when I'm doing my research, I'm watching a lot of like 12-minute recaps of Dahmer's life. This could have been done in 12 minutes. It really could have been over in 12 minutes. And then this series is 10 episodes. They're each like an hour long. This could have been 3 episodes very easily.
For sure. That's like you said, it's you got to credit it to the good casting. They really did a good job of making each role really count, where if you put it in lesser hands, it would suck.
Yeah.
And then then the other thing is that it's written in a way that you're kind of, this is genius. They literally rehash the same stuff again. Like the grandma pulls the sheet off of the mannequin twice. But remember, the first time it takes you to a different thing.
Right.
And then the second time it takes you to the real moment where she sees it's a mannequin. But they do a good job of getting double use out of things. So that's almost how they're able to extend it, is because they're literally going over the same scene twice. But
they made an effort to make everything very, very extended.
Fresh. It's pretty fresh, though. And then I kind of like how it throws you off because you don't know what the timing's going to be.
Yeah.
So it takes you back and forth in kind of a Pulp Fiction kind of way, which is I thought pretty unique. But it does only serve as like a mask for it being too long. It still could have been shortened a little bit, but it makes it more tolerable.
If Netflix said, all right, you got to do 10 episodes, and they were like, damn, how are we going to make 10 episodes of this? Then I could see it. If they said, we want to tell the story of Dahmer and we want to do 10, then I can see that one, just as far as where to assign blame. Where do you stand on them jumping around with the timeline, because I hate it when they do that.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Starts because a whole series starts with Dahmer getting arrested. That is
Right.
the very first scene, and you watch that and you're like, well, is it over? We have
Right.
have episodes to still go here. Where do you stand on the timeline? Because you know I hate that.
The director kind of comes in like with the assumption that you know that he's gonna get busted.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're just gonna throw that out there at the very beginning. He's gonna get arrested, and it's like it's not a mystery. You've probably read about him or heard about him, so we're gonna accept that. So they try and make it interesting because I think it's like a psychological exploration of like what makes a serial killer too. So the dad like Richard Jenkins acts his ass off in this role, especially towards the later end where he like starts to cry during the trial and like says he like failed his son and stuff like that. I got pretty choked up during that part because it really like puts you in the shoes of the dad at the end of the day, just wanting his son to be something, whether he's successful or not. I just want him to function in society. I don't want him to be weird. And when Jeff goes to the military and comes back with the haircut and his dad's so happy, you get to kind of get a little taste of how easily that dad would be impressed with his son. If only he would just get a haircut and do a job that was somewhat of a career, I would be so proud of my son. So the dad wants Jeffrey to be on track his whole life. And you're right, the dad makes lots of mistakes, but he really cares about his son and asks himself, did I make you into a monster? Did I help nurture this evil spirit inside of you? When do you remember the part that's really interesting is when Jeffrey gets out of prison, maybe the first or second time, and his dad asks him like, how'd it go in there, Jeff? And Jeffrey's like, he's low key pretty funny that whole series.
There's a lot
like,
of unintended comedy in this series.
He does that little half grin where he's like, huh, pretty good. A lot of alone time. Got a good chance to think about a lot of stuff. And then the dad's like, what the fuck? And he's like, did they give you any counseling in there, Jeff? Did you get to talk to anybody? And he was like, no, I just pretty much just stayed to myself. And the dad's like, what the fuck? Like, because he knows his son is disturbed and he knows he needs some type of deep counseling. So when he gets out of prison, just free to enter society again, like the dad writes a note to the judge being like, please just like get him a psychiatrist or something. So that was a part of the series that I thought they like made an interesting subplot to.
Yeah.
I've never seen a serial killer parent relationship that was that interesting.
That was, a truly heartbreaking scene. And, without Richard Jenkins at it, I don't think it has the impact, but he wants help for him, but he really doesn't do anything more than write a letter, because then he breaks down and starts crying right after Jeff. And then Jeff sort of flippantly says like, no, they kind of just left me alone. That was good. And you're like, oh, this time in prison was nothing. It did nothing. You feel the dad's just heartbreak. And then he would detach and he would just sort of like leave him with the grandma or something. Like he wasn't involved like he should have been because the guy was just beyond warped at that point. So yeah, I agree that the casting is what makes you finish this series because it's all over the place with detail and some unnecessary detail. Some stuff is acted really well and looks great on the screen, but just completely unnecessary. I thought.
Totally.
Like when I forget which episode, it's 7 or 8 when it starts and it says like such and such 1960 and you're like, oh, is this when Jeffrey Dahmer was born? And it's a whole storyline of one of the victims, the guy who was deaf. It's 45 minutes of setup. No, and dude, you're like, what's going on here?
I thought that part of the story was kind of like, it reminded me of that part in every Call of Duty campaign mode where there's just that one level that everyone skips over. And that's the episode that I just skipped over the second time I watched it. Because I get it. Like it's all from the point of view of a victim. And it's genuinely kind of cool how it's like, there's no sound because he's deaf. But at the same time, like once you experience it once, you don't need it again.
Yeah.
So I skipped it the second time, and I thought like the thing I really liked about that part, I didn't care from his perspective, it was cool, but that was like an actual relationship that Dahmer was in for like a few weeks.
Yeah.
He
Yeah. They
goes
made
out
it.
with the guy,
Yeah.
like the guy like kind of teases him and says like, I'm not going to give it up the first night, you got to earn me. And then Jeff like does like consciously decides not to drug him in one moment, and instead like has a normal relationship with him, so that was a really interesting part of the show. But from his perspective, a little bit of a reach, I thought. I thought they were kind of trying to maybe assuage that, like maybe people are like, they never focus on the victims. I like that this episode kind of gave it to you from the perspective of a victim. You
Yeah.
get to learn about him, you get to follow his life. So it pays a little tribute to some of the people that Jeffrey killed without just making them like a smudge on his windshield,
Yeah. There was
But
an
at the end of
effort
the
to.
day, I'd skip it. I would skip it, dude, because
I'd skip it too. Yeah.
yeah, but it's a good sentiment, dude. It's a good sentiment, I feel like.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
much like the Dahmer dad. Like there was an effort, however, it needed to be better than what it was.
A little bit
We
better.
needed to
Yeah.
compress it because we had to cover so much: victims, shoddy police work, childhood, parents, all the crimes, all the little red flags leading up to it. It was just so much to cover, and like every episode was just once past episode 4, it was just like exhausting to kind of rehash everything and reset every single time. All right, let's jump into the categories. Now we have a bunch of them like we've done in shows before, but let's start off with most compelling moment. I have, I have one nominee. However, you can break it up to many. My most compelling moment nominees are pretty much all the scenes with the dad, with Richard Jenkins. When he's young, when he's going fishing, when they're looking for roadkill. I wrote in my notes, fun with dad looking for roadkill. just trying. He's trying. And then that one scene that really got me, this was early on, when Jeff Dahmer's living in Miami, which, by the way, could have had a great life. He's living in Miami. He's working at the butcher shop so he can cut up meat and shit. He likes that. Miami's a growing gay population in the 80s. This could have been your life, Jeff Dahmer. You could have been normal for half a second there. But he's miserable. He's drinking too much. And when he's on the phone with his dad and he's just like crying, he's like, Dad, can I come home? Like, it's just so heartbreaking to hear that. Like, what if you had a son that said that to you? It's like, I don't know how you don't break down. That scene I'm going to give as the most compelling moment. The crimes, the killings are all compelling, but I got to give the scenes with the dad most compelling moment. If there's any shred of humanity to Dahmer, it's the scenes with the dad.
Yeah. I those scenes are so interesting and like untread territory when it comes to true crime, fiction and nonfiction. So I love those parts. Super compelling, well acted. It made it like a drama. Really good. You don't see that a lot in true crime. True crime can be really cheesy and overdone. So this was like some top-notch acting. So that's a credit more to I guess the writing and then of course the actors. Most compelling moment for me, man, would have to be when I guess it's not really a specific moment, but it's his relationship with his grandmother. There's like so many scenes where you can tell he wants to kill her.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
So close to it. Like when she throws his mannequin away and he's like, Grandma, what'd you do with my thing? And she's like, Jeff, why do you have that thing? And he just says he needs it back. And she says it's gone. And he gets so fucking pissed.
Yeah.
And he's like, he tells her to fuck off, and then throws a plate against the wall. And then the next scene is like them sitting at dinner and they're both eating TV dinners. And then he apologizes to her. And he's
watching
like,
Jeopardy.
Sorry about that, Grandma. Like, and she's like, I'll accept your apology, Jeff. Like, so their relationship I found so interesting, man. And honestly, weirdly, if I was a serial killer, I feel like that's the relationship I would have had with our grandma. If I was running,
Just found the clip to cut out for the later for the later.
right, yeah. If I was killing people,
If I was a serial killer,
I like seriously, man, like that's how grandma would have reacted to me pulling that shit. She just would have been like, "Who are you with?" And I would have been like, "No one, grandma." So
right?
it was so relatable and kind of goofy. And I thought just so compelling, especially the part where she comes downstairs after he drugs that guy. And he's like,
that was weird.
God, that part was spooky. And then he's trying to lose her. And then she kind of knows that there's really something wrong with him.
Yeah.
So she like stays down there the whole night and saves the guy's life. Did you know, dude, that scene is totally fabricated?
I was going to ask, because there's some historical inaccuracies series to real life. I didn't know about that, so that was not correct. So I thought
that's a real guy who woke up in a hospital with no recollection of what happened. But since he has no recollection, and Dahmer like didn't really tell the truth, just said he came over and got drugged and his grandma caught him, they kind of recreated that moment a little bit. So no one knows if that's exactly how it happened, but he did get drugged and like somehow ended up okay. But I think the part where like she literally forces him to go on a bus, I think that's bullshit. I think
that might have been added in. It's funny. I never really considered Jeffrey Dahmer ever a threat to the dad or the grandma. Like he was just going to kill random people.
Yeah.
That he met. I never got any sort of sense that he was going to hurt those family members for whatever reason.
That's the part that makes him a little bit sinister to me, is that he knew that there was a line he couldn't cross. So it's not like he's an uncontrolled animal. He really has like a good sense of like, this would be too much,
Yeah.
I can't kill my grandma. How am I going to hide her? She's my grandma.
Well, it is a weird like logic disconnect with all the serial killers. Cause you're like, well, why would he do that? Cause you're going to get caught if you do that. You can't do that. But yet he's killing these runaways. At some point, you got to know one of these guys are going to like, someone's going to come looking for these people. Right. Like, how are you going to get away with just keep putting bodies and parts and smelly things in your apartment? Like they're gonna find out, Jeffrey Dahmer. So it's just logic that cannot be reasoned. You cannot figure out. Like he's not a highly intellectual killer. He is just pure visceral emotion killing type of guy. So, but yet I never felt like he was gonna hurt the grandma.
Right.
Strange.
There's no way he would do it because it's his grandma and he's scared of his dad. So he knows if he kills his grandma, his dad's going to be furious. And that's like a big like block for Jeff, is like his relationship with his dad. So he doesn't fuck with the family when it comes to his murder shit. But yeah, he'll sure kill anybody else, man. Literally anybody else. Like I love the part where he gets kicked out of the bathhouse for
for drugging someone.
Drugging too many guys. And then that owner's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you drugged so many guys. And then he even warns the guy he's with. He's like, you don't go with this guy. This guy will drug you and leave you for dead. So the whole aspect of Jeffrey being like almost like what is it? Like a legend in that area, or somebody who already had like a reputation, like Crazy Jeff, the blonde guy who'll drug you and, do weird shit to you. People knew about him. It's really bizarre that he was able to do it for that long and get away with it. And any killer who had any more sense would know that they would have to go to different clubs to pull that shit off.
Right.
But Jeff is just going to try and drug people at the same bathhouse every night.
Yeah, no plan. He's just random.
He's raw. Yeah, he's just raw out there. Like he could have been caught the first night, and instead he lasted for 8 years or however long.
Yeah.
But there was no reason why he wasn't caught the first night. It's just shitty police work. And then just random luck. So it's bizarre that his story even exists. It's frustrating to see how much he gets away with.
Yeah. And then also like with all these true crime docs and stuff, when they tell the story, there's always 2 or 3 moments where he could have gotten caught, but the police are shitty or something like circumstance happens where he doesn't get caught. There's a couple of those in here as well. So I got compelling moments of the scenes with the dad. You went with the grandma. scenes, which I thought were fun. Like when they're eating TV dinners and watching Three's Company, like there was some unintended comedy in there that I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, they're goofing off for sure. And Jeff is like just taking dead bodies down to the cellar, and the grandma's like, "What's that smell?"
Yeah.
And then he brings up like a trash bag filled with body parts, and it's just like, this is so fucking bizarre, this relationship. But also, I could see it happening. I could
see it happening too.
I could see a aloof grandma just letting that all slide.
Yeah.
And just thinking he's gay and weird.
Yeah.
You know, that's all she thought about him. So really, really interesting part for sure.
Next category, scary era. We talked about this with John Wayne Gacy's, the 70s, the Midwest. I don't know if I got a real element that the era was scary. This is in the Midwest again. The poor neighborhood, I thought, added a little bit of scariness to it, but I didn't really feel like the setting was scary per se. I thought there was enough oddity and scariness in the characters itself. What did you think about the era or the setting in this series?
I like the setting of I like the gay club nighttime atmosphere setting. So I liked when they would have the shots of him being at a club or in the bathhouse and just looking at all the men, you know, and just like almost like a bear just looking at salmon. I thought that was like a really interesting thing to tap into, because most serial killers kill women. So Jeffrey Dahmer's unique in the sense that he hunted men. Name me a bunch of serial killers, and I bet they mostly killed women. So Jeffrey is this dude who kills a different sex, which requires more of him. It's like his physicality has to be so much more. He's taking on dudes, you know, granted he drugs them and everything, but I liked that atmosphere of, you don't see the gay serial killer very much. And I thought that was like a new thing to tap into and something that was really interesting. Do you remember this part was, I thought, pretty scary, when he takes after he gets kicked out of the bathhouse, he takes that guy to the hotel. Right. And it's like a little fancy. And then Jeff drugs himself by accident.
Yeah. I have that in a later category coming up.
And then like they're dancing, and then Jeff's trying to get him to drink the drink, and the guy's like, "No way, baby, I model. I gotta keep this. I
gotta work tomorrow. Let's party." There's a lot of use of party just meant drink.
Right. And then Jeffrey's like, "You pussy, it's just fucking Rite Aid or whatever."
Yeah.
Or he's Diet Right.
It was Diet. What was
Diet? I think Diet Right. I think he says Diet Right.
Yeah. There was a lot of funny unintended comedy where Jeffrey Dahmer's making fun of people who weren't drinking or not drinking enough. Like when he buys the liquor for the kids outside the liquor store, and he's like, "What do you want?" And he's like, "Lightweights."
Yeah. He's a fucking he knows what to say to kind of seem a little normal in that moment. Anyway, he wakes up the next morning and the guy's foot's right by his head. And you're like, oh, they had a wild night together, you know? And then you learn that he beat him to death, you know? That shit was so crazy to me, because that guy, you know, thinking about the gay culture at that time, it's such a culture of celebration. It's just, I'm with a guy, I'm happy, like I get to be who I really want to be. Maybe I have to pretend to be straight all the time. So they're almost able to just release with Jeff. And then Jeff totally takes advantage of that and drugs them and then beats them to death, like right before their eyes. I just find that so scary of a concept to think about, because all the women with Ted Bundy were always a little nervous. They were always like, I don't know about this guy. Like, this guy's fucking weird. But with Jeffrey Dahmer, I feel like they were genuinely happy with him.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of
resistance. Until the point.
Yeah,
up until the point where they were like, oh no, this guy's fucking crazy. Because he rides that line of goofball really well, where you just think he's a goofy, cute guy. And then you discover that he's actually fucking crazy. Yeah. I just find it so interesting. So I like that atmosphere more. The fact that it's a unique experience. Jeff was gay and they get into that about him. It's interesting.
Next category, hits and misses. This is stuff we liked, stuff we thought totally missed the mark in the series. I got for the hits, great casting. We already talked about that. Good use of 90s music, like deeper cuts 90s music, like in the clubs and stuff like that was cool. I like that. And then misses, I got the pacing, too
Yeah.
long, too much detail. And this was one that when I rewatched it threw me off. I think it's in episode 2 or 3 where they play the actual call from Glenda to the police,
Oh yeah.
the actual 911 call. And she says like, what happened 30 minutes ago? There was a underage boy. Did you guys ever figure like, yeah, we took care of it, ma'am. How old was he? Ma'am, we took care of it. He seemed pretty like everything's all right, ma'am. It's fine. Like it was, but it's the actual call. And then
Yeah.
we never go to anything actual again. Like there's no more calls. That one threw me off a little bit. I thought it was going to be that kind of that kind of series where it was interspersed with actual things, but that was the only addition to it. I thought that was a miss.
Yeah.
Like they could have done something more with that or less to it, but it was odd. I thought it was effective, but yet it was gone after that. What do you have for your
Mhm.
hits and misses?
I thought so I guess the hits were, the acting was amazing. Um I thought there was a total fucked up sense of catharsis at the end where he gets beaten to death by the guy. I just thought that was like such a strong hit. The editing on that, where like every hit like takes you back to like the different murders that he went through in life,
Oh
and
yeah.
then just like the sense of justice there, just this fucked up like Western cowboy justice for like you
Hmm.
get what you deserve. So many people hate the fact that serial killers get to live this posh life, and then just like die by like gentle like lethal
Hmm.
injection that puts you to sleep. So the fact that Jeff Dahmer got beaten to death with a fucking dumbbell
Yeah.
in the prison gym is just hardcore. And then
Heart.
it's
Yeah.
it's horrific too because he kills his friend first. So
Right.
the guy screams, Jeffrey hears it, and then the guy walks out like the fucking Grim Reaper and then kills Jeffrey
Hmm.
after saying some fucked up shit to him, which I believe that he really said. Because the true story about that guy is that he was like a schizophrenic like inmate who like heard an angel tell him he needed to kill Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
So
And
he
he had
probably said,
murdered people too.
"Oh fuck
He
yeah."
was in there.
His name was
So
his name was Christopher Scarver, I think. And
yeah,
also
I read that
he
too.
was like 6'6", I think. He was huge.
Hmm.
So he like towered over Jeffrey, and there was like no chance it was gonna be it. Like he just killed that guy. So I thought that was a hit. I like that part. And even though it's like kind of fucked up, like I think people basically like to see justice be served, and that was kind of sweet, As much as you
Yeah.
hate Jeff, as much as you hate Jeffrey, like in that moment, he gets his. It kind of feels like he
Yeah.
has
I
a
wonder
horrific.
how I wonder how that scene would have been reacted to, say if it was in the theater. You know how every once in a while, like the bad guy in a movie gets killed or run over, and sometimes people cheer in the theater.
Yeah,
I wonder how people would have reacted to that because I didn't like that they made the crazy prisoner murderer guy essentially a hero. I,
yeah,
I didn't like that part. That guy was nuts too. This was like animal on animal justice. So
right,
I wonder how people would have reacted to that. And then just the question of like the prison guard like leaves. He kind of leaves the three of them alone. So did the prison guard know what was going to happen? So that was
right.
a little odd too. But yeah, the final scene didn't sit with me well. Like it was awkward, but you liked it. The final scene worked for you.
I thought it was cool because I also knew that was going to happen. I
Yeah,
know that
I did too.
I know he's going to get killed by an inmate, and I wanted to see how they pulled it off. And I thought it was kind of interesting how they connected with the fact that he gets baptized. So he's kind of
Right.
like
Hmm.
washed of his sins and he's like free now. But then they do this cool thing where, like, in the scene right before he dies, like, after he's baptized, they show a mop being like plunged into like a bucket of water.
Hmm.
And it's like, I feel like it's just meant to imply like it's just no different than putting a mop in holy water. Like he's just still like an evil little object that's about to get like fucked up,
Hmm.
And then he gets killed. Um, I love that part. Okay, the part that I thought was a total miss for two reasons, just like storytelling wise, and then also like accuracy, historical accuracy, was the part where they show Gacy kill that kid.
Oh yeah, I
When
have
when
that. I have that as well. Like,
that was
what
so
are?
fucking weird, man.
Yeah,
Like I like the part where he brings the kid in and kind of drugs him, and then like he ties that scary knot on him with a rosary. Like all that shit, like
yeah.
was scary as fuck. But the part where he's dressed up as the full clown and he's like putting him in the tub, and he's like, "There's no God, I'm your God."
Hmm.
Like all of that, I thought was overkill and
I could
like
have done
almost
without that too.
like just too much. Like I was like, that's because that's also bullshit. He never killed anybody when he was dressed up as a clown. That wasn't
Yeah,
something he did. Like he just happened to be a clown for events, but he never dressed as the clown when he murdered people. So that part was salacious. I just thought it was overkill and not even accurate, and just like milking a serial killer for everything it's worth from the most wrong aspects of like why you should, follow it, I guess.
the whole
So
John Wayne Gacy attempted tie-in was so unnecessary.
yeah, that was
So unnecessary.
overkill.
A whole scene of a John Wayne Gacy crime. The tie-in to John Wayne Gacy getting the death penalty with Dahmer getting baptized. It was like, dude, this isn't Marvel Universe where we try and
Right.
tie everybody in at the end of it. Enough of this. This is too long. This is too
Yeah.
many episodes. Yeah, I had that in my misses as well. Just the attempted tie-in to John Wayne Gacy. Didn't need it. They didn't know each other. There was no tie-in. There was no demonic connection. Just skip it all. That was
Yeah.
that was I could have skipped all that.
There was no need for it. The only reason I think you could say it exists is because that's where Jeff gets the idea to be baptized.
Yeah.
But like you don't need, like, you could still have the scene where he just sees it on TV and he's like, "Oh, that guy got baptized. I should get baptized." I don't
Yeah.
like that they showed the murder. I don't like that they showed him drowning a kid
And it
in the
was like
tub.
at the beginning of one of the episodes, so you
Fucking
got to figure out like
insane, dude.
what
Yeah,
house is this? What is this? Like who do I have to know
right.
about? What characters? It just felt like a shitty Marvel
You
tie-in.
know, if from like no, like just my stupid like guess is like I feel like they were like we're kind of losing the audience a little bit. Like, where's this series going? Let's open this episode with just a crazy Gacy murder.
Yeah.
That way people will have a shocking thing to see again, because that scene does happen kind of in the part of the show where you're like, how long is this going to happen before he just gets killed in the gym?
Yeah.
So maybe that's a hook they put in where they were like, just get him back in. We got to give the audience something crazy. So it feels like something they added in after.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought it was too boring, and someone was like, just punch it up, like punch it up with a crazy Gacy kill. And then
Netflix
they
was
put him
like,
in there.
you got 6 episodes in the can, but we really want 4 more out of you. And they're like, oh,
Yeah,
can we do?
because you can't talk about too much shit.
It was too much. It was too
The one that I thought was like, maybe, what were your thoughts on the episode that was all about his neighbor?
Let me think.
Glenda, where like she gets visited by Jesse Jackson, I think.
That was another thing I could have done without the Jesse Jackson. Now we got to make this a race thing. And
Yeah.
even his assistant is like, is this our fight? And they do that long story about, that was so long. And then nothing ever comes of it. Like there's no
Yeah.
shot of Jesse Jackson giving a speech on the steps, or that was, I could have done without that too. I was like, now we gotta break this all down. I throw that in there with Gacy, and we're down to 5 episodes at this point.
Dude, that fucking stupid documentary, or not documentary, fictional series, like fucks with you too. Because do you remember the part where she's getting that award for like the upstanding citizen award?
Mm-hmm.
And
they're tying in with the police.
It's a tiny little award that no one cares about, and then they tied it with those 2 officers getting like policeman of the year. Okay, that's not even true. Like those officers never got policeman of the year. That's
I had that in my questions. Yeah,
that's like a made up thing that they just threw in there.
Mm-hmm.
Those cops were disciplined and then ultimately reinstated, but they never got an award, or they never were like upstanding cops or anything. So like, I feel like the show just threw that in there to just kind of fuck with you.
How about the scene where the families of the victims are getting harassed? Like they're like, go back to your country. And then
Right.
they cut to the cops making the
Yeah,
calls.
dude, that's just
I'm
thrown
like,
in
is
there,
that made
dude. Yeah.
up? Would cops really do that?
Right. Why would they do that?
And
Like, that's just so bad.
we don't need any more details to know these cops are dumb and messed up. Like we already know
Yeah.
they're really, really bad. And yeah, and then they get reinstated and they got to do the whole thing where they're like, we take care of our own.
Oh,
Like for
God.
fucking
Yeah.
up, for leading a 15-year-old to their murder.
Right.
That was like almost like aggravating for the sense of making you aggravated.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you can't say that
We
that was
already
good
hated them.
police work. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, no matter how you look at this, like, that's a funny part where, like, someone says, like, why am I angry? You walked a 14-year-old back to a serial killer's apartment. Like that's why I'm pissed. Like, you did a terrible job as a cop. Like, all you had to do was not let that kid get murdered by Jeffrey Dahmer, and you
Right.
ignored every fucking red flag. So it's terrible police work, but they get defended by the union and whatever. And like, it just felt like the fact that they juxtapose her little award with their big award was just like almost like just like aggravating a fire. Just being
Right.
like,
Yeah, it's
just
just
be
like
angry
revving
at
us,
cops, hate cops even more, fuck
revving us
cops,
up even more. There's
Yeah.
there's a scene where like they're hearing noise and the cops are like, "What's going on in there? We heard a complaint." And then Dahmer's excuse is like, we're gay." Well,
Yeah.
ma'am, they're gay in there. What's all that
Dude.
noise? We're doing gay stuff. It's gay stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ma'am, they're doing gay stuff. We gotta move on. That was his
Crazy,
that
dude.
was his whole excuse. Is like, we're gay lovers in here.
Yeah,
Okay, moving on. Thank you,
I don't know.
sir.
I don't know if you want to come in here, officer. It's just
We're
pretty
pretty
gay in here.
gay.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
gay.
pretty gay in here. All right,
Yeah, man.
sounds good. Checks out.
Those parts are crazy, man. And then when the grandma's like, Jeff, I mean, if you're gay, like, we could take you to church. Like, we could pray about it. Like, there's all kinds of things we could do to help fix it. It's like, damn, dude, like, Jeffrey is like living in two different worlds. Like, in one world, he's got a grandma who thinks they can pray the gay out,
Mhm.
And then in the other world, he knows how to use that gayness to manipulate cops. It's
Yeah.
insane. Like,
Yeah,
he's
he
just
knew no
praying.
one would they'd back off if he just he played
Yeah,
the
like he
card
was
in.
aware that cops thought AIDS was like an airborne disease.
Right,
So
right.
so when they like didn't even want to go in because of the air, like Jeffrey used that to kill more people.
Mhm.
So he's so smart, and like it's just amazing to see like how he manipulates the situation. But at the same time, you're like, is he aware of that? Like, does he know how
Yeah.
much that helps him in this moment? It
Yeah,
was
I
pretty
didn't
good.
feel
Yeah.
he was smart. I think he was taking advantage of circumstance. He was just almost like just anything to survive, like whatever lie to survive or
Yeah.
keep the grandma off his back or whatever thing to say or pretend to do. I felt like he was just a survivor. He was like a cockroach like that.
He's
So
pretty scrappy. He's pretty
he's
damn
more
scrappy.
scrappy
Yeah.
than intelligent, I thought. All right, next category: red flag tipping point. At what point in this series do you think the red flag went up? And it's funny because at some point during the series, the dad lays them all out. Like when he picks him up from the jail that one time and he's like, you got kicked out of the army, you stole a mannequin, you were jerking off at the state fair, now you were in jail for molesting a 13-year-old. Like he lays out all the red flags
Yeah.
to it. I mean, I guess it would say like the army one because they don't really say why exactly he was kicked out. The dad was like, why were you kicked out of the army? He's like, drinking, I guess. Like he didn't really press him. Like, what were you doing in there? So, I mean, I guess you got to say the very first one, or could you go before that in his childhood? What do you think the red flag was in here?
Dude, ultimate red flag for me would be when I come home and I see he's just been living at home for 3 months, like
Oh yeah,
by
that's
himself without the mom, and didn't tell me. The dad was living at a motel like on the other side of town during that time. So I would be so disturbed why he didn't call me a week in and said mom hasn't been home yet. That would be red flag number one.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you got to go. Like, you lived here by yourself. You didn't tell me. You've been drinking. You're fucked up. Like, you got to get your life fixed. Dude. The weird thing. Do you remember the part in the fucking diner where he's talking to his dad, and he says like he's admitting to his dad that he has sexual fantasies and he like might be fucked up, and then the dad's like, I got it. You're gonna go to Ohio State. I'm gonna
Right,
pay for
right.
you to go to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
And
such a
the
weird
stepmom,
part.
like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, she's like, ooh, that's a good idea.
And he's like,
Like
okay.
that part was so weird to me because he's telling his dad there's something fucked up about him and he doesn't know what to do about it. And then his dad just cuts him off and then says, I'm gonna pay for your college. I thought that
Mhm.
was so funny. Like that's the red flaggest moment of them all. It's like
Mm,
your son who just
that's good.
drinks all the time and was at home with a trashed house 3 months on his own, didn't call you, is telling you I have weird sexual thoughts that I'm worried about, and you just cut him off, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the ultimate red flag. And then the ultimate example of what a shitty dad that guy was. Like at the
Yep.
end of the day, kind of a bad listener, you know?
Yeah. The dad
Jeff
dropped the
warned
ball
him.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an awkward conversation to have at a diner too with your dad and his new wife too.
That's the
Trying to.
day he met her.
Whew.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was like when he met her. That was
That's
rough.
the
That was a rough
first time
dinner.
they visit each other.
That
So
was a,
terrible.
that was a rough dinner. Um, next category: unintended comedy. What
Yeah.
what in this series made you laugh unintendedly? I got one, two, I have four of them. I have Dahmer's dance moves. There's a
Pretty
part
good.
where he's doing the Napoleon Dynamite dance moves. He takes his shirt off at one point. He's
Pretty
all
good.
jacked and he gets into working out. He gets all jacked. I got Dahmer's dance moves. Product placement. Budweiser and Coca-Cola. A lot of product placement for those
Yeah.
two. We saw a Diet Coke. We saw a Coca-Cola can. Numerous Budweiser cans. Pegasus, the one band that his first victim is gonna go to, that he picks him up. He's like, we gotta go to Pegasus, man. Pegasus, time to go. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I don't remember Pegasus being a big band at all. I don't remember that. And then just Dahmer trying to get rid of the cops by saying we're doing gay stuff.
Just doing the gay stuff.
Those are my unintended comedy. I think I got to give it to Dahmer's dance moves, which were so over the top funny that like you couldn't help but kind of chuckle in the midst of this horrible, horrible story.
Oh
So
my
what do you got for
God.
unintended comedy? Any of those or
I,
add your own?
they're kind of playing into like Dahmer just kind of saying the funniest thing at the right moment was like when he's about to kill that guy in his grandma's living room. And then the grandma comes down and then she's like, Jeff, I didn't know you had black friends.
Oh, that was good.
And
Yeah.
then he's like, yeah, grandma, it's not the 1920s anymore.
I forgot about that.
He owns her, and then she knows she got roasted, and she's like, "No, Jeff." And like, it's like I was like, "What a perfect thing to say." It's like, "Yeah, Grandma, it's not fucking 1920 anymore." Like, even though I'm gonna kill this guy, like I could one up you right there. So
I forgot
thought
about
that was a pretty funny part.
That's
And
a
then-
worthy write-in
and then
for sure.
The other thing that I thought was really, I'm glad they inserted this part, is that he sneaks into the honor society photo and
Oh, yeah,
gets
that
his
was
picture
weird.
taken, and then they catch him when the editors look at it, and then they like blot it all out.
Yeah.
I love the part where he opens the book and then sees that his face has been blotted out and he's all pissed. And he's like, fuck! Like that was his one thing that he wanted and he didn't get it. They caught him. So that part was pretty funny too. I was like, damn, he just wanted that. From all of high school, he wanted to crash the honor society photo and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then that's true. That's apparently a true story.
Yeah,
Like,
I
they didn't
saw that
embellish
that was true. So what did they do? The yearbook society marked out every single copy of the yearbook?
They blotted out every single one.
How many
with him
copies
in
was
it.
that? Would have been like
Probably
2,000
like-
copies.
I don't know if it was that big back then. It might have been like 1,000 or 800 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they blotted out every one because they were like petty as hell. They didn't want to let Dahmer be.
I don't know how they didn't notice him in the photo in the first place.
I know, that's a funny part. He like just
Yeah.
sneaks in the right moment.
Yeah.
He
Save
would
that.
do all that stuff. He would pretend to be retarded. He would do like a mentally handicapped person's impression and crack
Mhm.
people up. He
Yeah.
was drunk in school all the time. He was a weird guy. He was a class clown, but no one really had a real relationship with him.
No friends, no nothing, drinking all the time,
Yeah, drunk
getting
in school.
roadkill. Next category, I have loner or serial killer. So here's a couple of descriptions. You tell me if this is more loner or serial killer.
Okay.
Joins the army. A little more loner, I
Oh,
think.
dude. Yeah, for sure. Loner.
Works as a butcher.
Oh, serial killer.
Mm.
For sure.
Goes to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Goes to
no
this.
doubt. Serial killer, no doubt.
Goes to the state fair alone. I think that's definitely serial killer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that could also be a public masturbator or someone who's like gonna live in a life of crime, but maybe not necessarily kill somebody.
Mm.
A pederast, like it could be a many different gradients of crime, but serial
Okay.
killer would definitely also go there.
Has a home gym. I would say
Loner,
that's more dominion of the loner.
loner,
Working
loner.
out in the garage, doing some
Yeah,
reps, doing curls in the garage.
no doubt, no doubt.
Steals a mannequin. I think serial killer.
Serial killer,
That's
no
serial
doubt
killer.
about it. That's serial killer behavior.
And finally,
Unless you're using the mannequin to like, I don't know, like throw like I got this fucking dope ass paintball gun and I want to shoot a fucking target in the backyard.
okay,
Then it's
small.
chill. If you sleep with the mannequin, serial killer,
Sleeping with a mannequin, serial killer.
no doubt.
And lastly, into taxidermy. That's a tricky one. That could be loner, but very close, just like
All
a
right.
dusting of serial killer.
If you're into because the thing I'll say about Dahmer is like he was into taxidermy, but at the end of the day, like, did he ever have anything to show for it?
No,
Like,
he
did
didn't.
he
Just
have?
wanted to
Did
kill
he
shit.
have?
Just wanted
Yeah,
dead
he
shit.
never had like a good squirrel that he had like taxidermied
No.
and was like on the wall. So I feel like taxidermists should be the most angry about this. Like, he's not an
Right.
actual.
He's giving him a bad name. Yeah.
Yeah, he would just cut shit up and pretend to be doing taxidermy. So if you're a taxidermist and you're legit, I would say you're a loner. You could just be a loner.
Yeah. Also, I would say like he had no skills whatsoever. He's like, I want to make living zombies and I'm into taxidermy.
Yeah.
He's like, but you don't know how to do it. You're just fucking around. You're just pouring
Right.
acid for the sake of pouring acid and boiling shit. You don't know what you're doing. You're not into taxidermy.
Yeah, he was such a dumb fuck, dude. Like
Yeah.
the limited,
Just warped.
Yeah, totally warped and fucked up. Like, he wanted to make a robot zombie that would live in his apartment and like could be his sex slave. So
Yeah.
that's why he would like drill a hole in their head and pour fucking acid down, is to like almost lobotomize them.
Yeah.
So
Except he had no reason to think that any of this would work. He was just doing it to do it.
Right. It would like I think the only reason he did it is because like he read like it could have that effect.
Mhm.
So he wanted to pour it directly on the brain, and of course it killed them within like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's like almost like when you think about like the type of serial killers who are like smoother and more of like the confident, suave businessman, I would equate Jeffrey Dahmer to like Frankenstein, like living in society. Just a big dumb animal who's like gonna get caught at some point, and the fact that he got away with it this long says way more about just like the shitty cops than it does about like him.
Right. Bad beat
as a
for the
serial
cops
killer.
this whole series.
Horrible. Yeah, they could have caught him day one if they wanted to.
Yeah. Next category, pending questions. These are questions that the documentary left us wanting to know how, why, or what. I have 3 of them. Okay. The scene where Jeffrey Dahmer accidentally drugs himself.
Oh, yeah.
How are we supposed to believe that he killed the guy with his bare hands, having been drugged? And I looked it up. This is what actually happened in real life. He beat a guy with his bare hands, but he has no recollection of it. But he's drugging all these people so they're incapacitated. But if he did it to himself, how did he do it? How did he beat a man to death being drugged? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know because it really happened. And Jeffrey Dahmer's not around. So I had that as a pending question. This one was a weird one. To steal the mannequin, Jeff hides in the fitting room. Then the store closes. Then he can get the mannequin. But how did he get out of the store? Wouldn't the door be locked?
Right.
Unless it was locked from the inside, and I don't how he actually got out.
So doesn't he take the mannequin apart and put it like in the bag?
Yeah,
and
he puts it in a bag.
Maybe he waits for the store to open.
Oh, he
the next
waited
day.
all night.
Yeah, he
in
sleeps
there
all night. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next day he probably leaves like an hour after they unlock the door or something.
Kind of like in that movie, The Inside Man or Inside
Yeah.
Job, where he builds a little hole for himself in the bank and then leaves 2 weeks
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he spends the night, which just shows how crazy he
Okay.
is.
All
And
right.
then the next day leaves. I think that's what
Oh,
happens.
okay. All right. That could
Do you
that
know
could
if that's
work.
true? Is that a true
I don't know. I didn't see how he stole the mannequin in real life.
I think
Uh
that's probably accurate. I could
Plus you
see
can
that.
buy mannequins.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm sure he like was just wanted to steal one, like he didn't
Yeah.
want to pay for one. Dude, the thing that I found out, I read some articles about things that were real and things that weren't about the show. And the one thing they exaggerated was the part where he drinks the blood. That was
Oh,
the grossest part in the
that was
whole fucking
gross.
that part made me want to vomit. When he
Mm.
did that, I was like, that's fucking disgusting. Like, I can't believe they just showed that.
Ugh.
And I read online that that's not even true. That
He
like
didn't drink any blood?
no, he said that when he was working as a phlebotomist, there was one time where he like tried to take a little sip of a vial and then hated it, but
Mm.
he never like went ham with the gallon bag like all over his fucking mouth. Like, and I was like, what a filthy show. Just like amp that scene up just to
Yeah.
make you grossed out.
Come on,
So
Netflix. It's too
yeah,
much.
they just
Too
like
much.
they just wanted to give it to you. Yeah, it's so made up.
Last pending question. What exactly did he get kicked out of the army for? He was
Oh
drugging
yeah.
people in the army. So like if we find his just discharge sheet, what is it going to say? Drugging other military personnel, or is
I
it
think
just going to say drinking too much?
I think the interesting thing is that he was honorably discharged. So he didn't even get a dishonorable discharge, but I believe it was a honorable discharge, but his like it was
Hmm.
like a lifestyle entanglement where maybe they knew he was gay and they knew
Right. Could have been it.
he was trying to hook up with guys all the time, and then I think he did admit to like drugging guys in the military, but I
Right.
don't think they ever caught him. I think it was just like they
Oh
knew he
yeah, because
was.
someone does say like, yeah, he was drugged and raped by Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah,
So they
I think,
knew, but maybe they didn't put that on his actual
dude,
discharge
I
sheet.
think it was like more like he was a weird fucking guy. He drank a lot, and they were just like, he doesn't fit. Like, let's just get him out.
Yeah, we
Like
can't
it's
have
just
this guy
like,
in Desert Storm. This
yeah,
is not.
no,
This
no
is not going
way.
to be.
Like, and they were like, we haven't really caught him doing anything wrong yet, but like, we just know he's not gonna fit. Like, this is a weird fucking guy. So see you later. And I bet that happens a lot, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Dude. So remember this guy I told you who was a weirdo on the bus? I
Yeah.
just looked him up, dude. He's like a rapper, dude. He's like a hip hop star. Oh, and his name's Dub T. And he's got like, it looks like he's got like deals with like Sony Music and shit. I
Well,
don't know.
funny.
This could be bullshit. I'm looking at his YouTube and it says his video's unavailable.
Well, funny you
But
say that
holy
because in
shit,
the
this is
waiting room and
crazy,
bringing
man.
in right
He's like
now,
a hip
Dub
hop star.
T. Okay, last category. Best quote of the series. I have 3 quotes. I have every time Jeffrey Dahmer says to a potential victim, "Hey, want a party?" I have um, when the dad is going through Jeffrey Dahmer's belongings at the grandma's house and he gets like that little box of achievements and it's locked and he's like, "Where's the key to this box?" Jeffrey's like, "I think I lost it." He's like, "Where's the key? Open up." And he goes, "What's in here? Gay stuff?" And then finally, the final quote when Jeff is finally handcuffed, when he says, "For what I did, I should be dead," as
Right.
a best
Right.
quote. I got those 3. Do you have one favorite or write in your own?
I think, oh man, okay. The one where he says, just the thought of it gives me chills when the fucking kid wakes up and Jeffrey Dahmer has the contacts in his eyes, so his eyes are yellow, and they're watching The Exorcist on TV.
Oh yeah, he
And
watches Exorcist 3.
yeah, he watches The Exorcist 3, and then the kid's like kind of blinking awake. And then he says, "Oh, hey, like I was hoping you wouldn't die. Like I have these let me know if these contacts are too scary. And then he says, I got them at a costume shop in Kenosha. I just thought that was a funny ass part. Like he says it with such a Wisconsin accent, and he like I believe that he's telling the truth. He probably did buy those fucking contacts at a costume shop in Kenosha. So
it was a really tough series for cops, Midwestern accent, over drinking a Budweiser. All took a hard loss in the series.
I stand by this. That is, he doesn't even talk with that much of a Midwestern accent in real life. Like that actor played it up.
Oh,
in the
I
movie.
see. Yeah.
Listen to some real Dahmer interviews. He kind of talks like a normal guy, but this actor cranked up that Midwestern like Kenosha. So it's even funnier than like I don't even think he really sounded like that. It's a little bit of a stretch in a goofy way. I like it. I like that he cranked it.
Hey, want a party?
Yeah,
that was his whole line. Pegasus, man. All right, I'll take you one more beer.
Weirdo, man.
What a series. I'm exhausted having watched that one. It was a tough one. Dahmer Monster is on Netflix right now. Watch it if you have a spare 13 and a half hours to watch it. I don't know how I feel. I feel like we need something light for our next go around with the true crime series. Overall, though, I thought it was well done. Too long, but some excellent scenes and acting in the series.
No doubt about it. Let's for our next one, let's do an unsolved one.
Oh,
that way we can come up with some ideas about what we think happened. There's a really good show called I think it's called Unsolved on Netflix, and there's some good 45-minute episodes that we can take a look at, and then we can theorize and stuff. They're really good.
We can sufficiently freak ourselves out watching those.
Dahmer put me in a dark place, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like as someone
straight
who
up
lives
dark.
Like as someone who lives in a studio apartment, like I just like sit at night in my bed and like I'm like, what would I do if I heard a scream through my vent right now? Like people come and go in these apartment buildings. Like I like it freaks me out to think about it. So I like didn't really appreciate like living in that world for that long. If that was an 8-episode system, I'd be good. If that was 4 episodes, that's cool. But like 10 episodes was too long. I wanted it by the end. I wanted out. I wanted out
too.
Yeah.
I wanted out halfway through.
It was
too
dark.
long.
It was good acting and everything, but too dark for me.
There's no category for this, but I wrote it down. I still wanted to say the one episode where they introduced Tony, the deaf kid who was one of the victims, when he goes to the pizza place with his friends afterwards. Man, that pizza looked good. I was like, I'll take a piece of that pizza. That got me through that episode. I was like, I can't go through this again. I was like, that pizza looks good though.
Right.
New category, best looking food.
You didn't know deaf guys know where all the good pizza is? Yeah, they got the hookup. It's because their senses are heightened. Like if you lose the sense, like your sense of taste is like even stronger. So like, if a deaf guy likes some food, like it's good. Good it's pizza. Good. Yeah, it was good. I'm glad we did it, but I'm with you. We should go lighter. We should lighten it up a little bit.
We need a palate cleanser. I'm exhausted from Dahmer. I hate it.
Yeah, and let's clean it up. We'll do some unsolved, some fare.
Well, that was this Halloween edition of Running It Back, True Crime Edition. Andrew from @Murder Mecca. Let's get it going, everybody. Let's bring back Murder Mecca.
Bring it back. It's a dying mammoth on the terrain right now. It's just bleeding out. Let's bring it back to life. Yeah.
Bring it back. It needs to party.
Yeah, it's ready to go. Yeah, man. Happy Halloween, dude. You're going to get any trick-or-treaters tonight? What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm ready. I got a bag of candy. Yeah. You cannot be underprepared. So be ready. So for Andrew Ramirez, for me, Patrick Ramirez, happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you, Andrew.
Happy Halloween. All right, man. Good time. See you.
That is it. That is the show. That is me and Andrew's review of the Jeffrey Dahmer story, currently on Netflix. Whew, what a journey. What a series. Very, very long series. Have you watched it all? Have you just started it? We went through it all, so maybe you don't have to. It's a very spooky watch, so enjoy at your own risk. How about those costumes, too? We really brought it. Don't forget, if you want to see me doing live stand-up comedy, November 21st is your chance. I am right here on the West Coast at the Hollywood Improv, so hit me up for all the details. Not to mention, everybody, I want to thank Andrew Ramirez for joining me. I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween, too. This was the Halloween edition of Running It Back, True Crime Edition. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you very soon.